Welcome everyone to History's Calling, Where Will It Take You? Today we have Scott Dunaway, who is the Associate Dean, correct, Scott?
Assistant Dean.
Assistant Dean, excuse me, the Assistant Dean, and who is also over the Washington Seminar. We are so excited. Thank you so much for joining us today, everybody. A couple of logistics and reminders. This is being recorded so that we can post this on our website at a different time. So right now we have a view where we can't see you, but if you decide to ask questions at the end of this, please note that this is being recorded. Any questions can be submitted and we will get to them at the end of this. We plan on going for about an hour and we'll get to questions at the last 15 minutes. We will also be stopping this series until February, but we will continue to update our website with different topics and different interviews, and then we encourage you to join us next semester. Thank you so much again for being here. Well, Scott, I think that we have a list of questions for you today, and so maybe you can get started by telling us a little bit about yourself, and then also sharing with us a little bit about Washington Seminar.
Okay, great. As Lindsay said, I'm the Assistant Dean in the College of Family, Home, and Social Sciences. I direct the Washington Seminar. I'm also responsible for the Utah State Legislature program, which is the subject of this discussion, but is also a great experience for history majors. And I also work with political science majors who want to get internship credit. I'm responsible also for the college's internship office. So we work with all departments across the college, one form or another in our office. The Washington Seminar, just plainly put, is it's an opportunity, and I'm going to talk about the Washington Seminar as if we were in normal times. And then as perhaps in questions and other things, I can amend anything for these days with the COVID virus. But the Washington Seminar is an opportunity for full-time BYU students to go to Washington, D.C. for a semester. And at the center of their experience in Washington is an internship. And we have a wide variety of internships. There are many things, especially for history majors, where students can work. And Washington is very much a mecca for interns because there's so many governmental, non-governmental organizations, arts organizations, museums, other things. There's just it's a very rich opportunity for students seeking internships. And so with our program, students work in an internship 4 days a week during the semester. And then on Fridays, we have a class that is kind of an advanced current events, civic engagement class. And students set all day Friday aside for activities related to that class. And included in that class, we have guest speakers who come and talk to our students. These will be members of Congress. These will be knowledgeable insiders. And what we're trying to do with that course is to give students an opportunity to not just learn about how the system works, but to understand it more deeply. And it's really, I think, one of the best parts of our experience. So with the program, students get the depth of their internship, but then they also get the breadth of understanding about how our national government works and also issues and a wide variety of other things. Sometimes we talk about about policy, but we'll also be talking about the arts and those kinds of things. We have an on-site faculty member who's in residence in the Washington, D.C. area who helps to oversee student experience and also is responsible for the coursework. The program is typically about 14 weeks, so it usually starts and ends right around the same dates as the semester. And we have 3 programs a year. We have the winter semester, We combine spring, summer, and then we have a program in the fall. And so students typically who do this experience say it was one of the highlights of their undergraduate experience. So it's in normal times, we also offer 2 excursions that are included in the program, where we go to Philadelphia and Valley Forge and focus on the founding. So our students will stay overnight at the Freedoms Foundation at Valley Forge on a Friday night. And then Saturday morning, we take them into Philadelphia and they visit the National Constitution Museum and Constitution Hall and the other sites that have to do with the Revolution and the Constitution. Then another Saturday, we go to Gettysburg and we spend a day there visiting the museum, the battlefield, and that's a great experience. So what we really try to do is give students both a sense of our national heritage and also the opportunity to build career-related experience and deepen their education. One thing I should mention about Washington Seminar is the only cost to participate on the program is just tuition that you would pay for the credit you're receiving. All students must take a basic package of 6 credits, and we also have a package that goes clear up to 12. So, and then in addition to the class and internships, we have a center in Washington, D.C., the Milton A. Barlow Center, which is located in an ideal place in the city. It's on the west end of Pennsylvania Avenue, very close to Georgetown and public transportation. And the Barlow Center is where students stay if they're participating on the program. And the rent there has been, I don't know what it may be in the future, but it's $1,600 for the semester. And that includes utilities and everything else. And the location is one of the great things about that facility. So we hold our classes there and our students live there. And we have rooms for both married and single students.
And can I just say that's an incredible deal. I lived in the Washington, D.C. area and paid an extravagant amount of money living there. And so the fact that the church has this for our students to use is a really big deal. And especially the location, like Scott was saying. Great. What other qualifications, Scott, or expertise do our students need to qualify for these experiences?
Well, the basic qualification to be admitted to the program is a student must be at least in terms of graded credits. Now, these are not AP credits. They need to have at a minimum about 30 credits to be considered and a 2.7 GPA. We also look closely at writing skills and those sorts of things. To compete, students need to have, typically they're in their junior year, so they have about 60 graded credits. What we don't want and what does not turn out to be positive are students who come into the program as a freshman. So normally a student would need to be a sophomore. We would not admit anybody who this is their first or second semester in college. Now transfer credits would all count for that. Now, and so it's because this is a broad program and because Washington has so many varied internship opportunities, any qualifications beyond that really depend on what the student is wanting to do for the internship. So some internships are great for students who just have a general background. For example, I think students are often surprised to find out that you can work on Capitol Hill in a congressional office if you have good writing skills, good interpersonal skills, and you don't need to have any kind of specialty. So if you're a history major and kind of a generalist, internship in Congress is a great way to go. So those are the basic qualifications. The whether or not that gets you in depends on the competition for any given semester. And I think timing is really important as you're considering when you want to participate, because spring summer is highly competitive, both to get into our program, but also to get an internship in Washington. And we often, I'm turning away many qualified students just because I have a limited number of slots. In a normal semester, I can only take about 45 students on the program. Fall and winter is much different. And with the fall or winter semester, our competition goes way down. And we a lot more flexibility to admit more students who are qualified and could have a good experience. So.
And are you finding that in fall and winter, the internship opportunities are as in demand? Because I think that's a curiosity.
Yeah, there are just as many internship opportunities in fall and winter, and in fact, sometimes more than there are in spring, summer. I've seen estimates of about 70, in normal times, about 70 to 80,000 interns are in Washington, D.C. in the summer. And that goes way down. In the fall and winter, I typically am getting requests from internship providers for our students to apply. I mean, I get them almost weekly, sometimes more frequently than that, because our program has a great reputation with many of the internship providers. And so it's not unusual that students may get several offers in the course for fall and winter. Spring, summer, it's not that way at all. It's extremely competitive, and being admitted to the program does not mean you have an internship. It just means that you have a spot on the program, assuming you're able to secure an internship.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I was wondering if you could go through the logistics from start to finish of when a student is interested in doing this program and what finding an internship could look like for them.
Sure. So there are two tracks for our program. Students often will come to us with the internship in hand. And if a student's already arranged their own internship and it fits with the program, there are some criteria. But if it fits with the program, then they have a priority claim on admission to the program. So we encourage that. Now, not the majority of students aren't in that category, but it's a much shorter application process if they have their own internship when they come to us. For students who are in the normal track, or what we call provisional admission, a student is admitted to the program, and then that their position on the program is tentative until they're able to secure their internship. And we have a preparatory class that everyone is required to take, and and in that class, I coach students, and our office assists in offline with helping students to prepare applications and to get them out. We have a database in our office of, I don't know, 1,500 internships that we're aware of in Washington, D.C. We coach students on how to use that that database, and typically students will apply to about 15 different organizations, more in the spring, summer, less in fall and winter. And we walk you through the whole process. So we talk about how to do a good cover letter, how to write a resume, how to package your application, what to look for in a quality internship. And one of the things I try to do is advise students on the kind of internship that is a good fit for them based on their qualifications and interests. And so we do a lot of coaching and mentoring and helping with that. And then students send out the applications, and I normally don't admit someone to the program if I don't think there's a reasonable chance they're going to be able to secure an internship. Can't guarantee anything, but that's one of the things I'm looking for as we evaluate applications. So students will send out those applications, and we talk about how that process works and try to put them in touch with people that we know who are looking for our students, and our past students, we've got quite a good reputation in Washington with a lot of the internship providers, and so they know if they get an application from a student who's on the BYU Washington seminar program, that they've got a little bit of an advantage, I'd say, in many cases. And so then students secure the internship. Once they get that internship nailed down, then they're locked, then they're in, and the housing's secure and everything else.
Fantastic, thank you. I was wondering, we talk a lot in our office about experiential learning as being something that's necessary almost to securing a career after. Can you talk to us about the value of experiential learning in general? What this is providing students? Because sometimes I feel like there's a disconnect between, okay, I'm going on this really great experience, but then how do I bring that home when I'm sitting in an interview, or I'm in an elevator with somebody and I need to do an elevator pitch? Can you talk a little bit about that?
You bet. First, let me just address the question of the value of internships and experiential learning. I'm always surprised if there's a student anywhere who doesn't think an internship is going to be important for their both their education and also for future career possibilities. So I encourage students to do as many internships as they can, even if it's not in some place like Washington, so that they begin to have that professional experience. And if it's a good internship, it'll enhance their education and help them to see how things that they're learning on campus are of value in the workplace. And then they also take the experience from their internship and bring that back to their coursework that they're doing on campus. And typically, with rare exception, I think graduate schools and future employers are going to be looking to see that a student has had a good quality experience. I don't recommend that students repeatedly have internships for credit. You ought to have one internship that you've done for credit. But I think students who keep doing internships for credit and repeat it time after time, that tends to look more like you're padding your transcript. So I would do experiences, but not do them all for credit. I would just have one really good experience that is going to have an academic focus to it, rather than just the work experience. And so one of the things I encourage students to do when they're looking for internship is to think not about 10 years from now, but think about how they want that internship to help them in the next step along their career path. So they may be wanting to go to graduate school. Well, some internships are going to be better experiences to go on to graduate school, depending on what that area is, than others. Also, maybe they would just want to get a job out of with their bachelor's degree out of from their undergraduate experience. Some internships are better at offering networking opportunities and other kinds of things that would be helpful with that as well. So you need to be strategic in thinking about the kind of internship you want. Then one of the things that our students typically don't, Lindsay, I'm glad you asked this question, because our students just seem to struggle explaining how the value of life experience, experiential experience, and that could be internship or mission or anything else, explaining why that adds value to their, to who they are and what they can offer. And students need to be thoughtful about that. So after completing an internship, they need to come back and then begin to write down what are the soft and hard skills that they developed from that experience that they could summarize and maybe refocus, adjust just a little bit depending on the kind of job or graduate school that they're applying for and why that experience adds value. And to be able to do that in short order. So, the typical, we talk about elevator speeches, right? So the 30-second explanation for why that experience was valuable. I think career services really can help students with that, learning how to craft that. But to just say you had an experience or to think that sometimes students think if I work for an organization that really everybody knows about, like, oh, it was an internship in the White House. Well, that item on a resume is not really good. It may get somebody's attention, but what did you get out of that experience that helped to develop you so that you can add value to the next thing you're going to be doing? That's the key. Anybody who reviews resumes or works with in human resources or is selecting people for a job, they know how to ask the next question beyond just the glitzy title and oh heavens, you work here. Okay, well, tell me what you did and why that will help our company or our organization. So learning how to summarize that well after that experience is really, really important.
I'm really glad you touched on that. Actually, the next question that I had was, what skills do the students take away that you hear about a lot and from Washington Seminar, and how can that be used in a resume or during an interview? What are some key takeaways that you've seen students use?
Sure, and that's it's a little difficult to answer that because it depends a lot on the internship that they've been in, and they are varied. But I would say the number one thing I see that recurs over and over again with students is a sense of confidence. So they've had this opportunity to work in a place like Washington and have been successful at it. And they go into it often with some trepidation, some fear, am I going to be able to manage this? And after having been through it, they discover that they really are competent and able to do it. And so there's a sense of confidence that, yeah, I made it here, I can make it anywhere. In addition to that, I think students learn, in terms of soft skills, they learn things like how professional behavior, how to kind of shed the campus persona and to work in a professional environment. And having that experience, if you're an employer and you're looking to hire someone, you want somebody that you know can step into the job and not be a student. You want somebody who can actually be act and perform like a professional. Beyond that, most of the internships that are of any real consequence are going to require writing. And students, I look to see the students can write well before they come on the program, but now they learn how to use those writing skills in a professional setting, which there are a lot of subtleties and nuances that are different than what you would do in writing on campus. And so I think they come away with much improved writing skills. Beyond that, it really depends on the area that they're involved in, and there may be hard skills. So sometimes we get students who are working with research organizations that use data analysis and that sort of thing, or they get a deeper understanding of the area that they're working in. So, for example, one internships that's great for history majors is the National Archives, and so we have students who will work at the National Archives, and now they understand how that works, the inner workings of whatever division at the archives they're in. And so the takeaway they have now is, yeah, I know how this works there. And they make contacts that can be helped them. So there just are so many valuable skills, insights, networking opportunities that can lead to other kinds of things in their lives.
Wonderful, thank you. You mentioned the National Archives being something that you see a lot of our history students do. Are there any other internships? Because I know there are so many, but if you could list a couple that you typically see our history students get into and their interest is met.
Sure. Well, one of the great things about a history major is that it is a broad liberal arts degree. And I think that has a lot of value, especially on the undergraduate level. One of the areas, I mentioned this earlier, is Congress. Congressional offices, typically working on the personal staff of the member of Congress, are a great way to learn how the inner workings of the of Congress. And history majors are ideal for that experience. Most congressional offices are not looking for students who have a lot of political science or policy background, because most of the work that a student does, there's some research involved, but as a history major, you learn how to do research, you learn how to use sources and those sorts of things. But it's writing, it's writing like a policy brief or writing to constituents. It's sitting in on congressional hearings and then coming back and reporting on those to your supervisor. So Congress is a great place. The National Archives, like I mentioned, is another one, but also a lot of nonprofit organizations where history students can work, not to mention the Smithsonian museums. And so there are a wide variety of Smithsonian museums. And I'll give you one that is hungry for our students. And it's not one of the more widely known museums, but it's the National Museum of the American Indian. The internship coordinator there is a BYU alum, and she's constantly asking me if there are majors who want to work there. And I say, well, do they need to have a background in Native American studies or something? She says, no, we just want good generalists here. And of course, then there are the museums that are more widely known, and some of them require a little more specialty than a generalist would have. But so Washington, D.C. is museum rich, and there are lots of opportunities with those. So there are just many opportunities. And what I recommend students do if they're interested in the program is to come into our office on the 9th floor of the Kimball Tower and start looking through our database of internship possibilities. And if you can find 10 that you're interested in and qualified for, then this is probably a good program for you. If you can't, then it's, you ought to look elsewhere. But unfortunately, that's only available in our office, and with COVID restrictions, you have to make an appointment to come in and so on. But that can indicate a lot of areas. We have others, Lindsay. We have some small. We have a small law firm that we work with. There are other, if students are history majors and they have a foreign policy orientation, they've done, especially if they have, say, a foreign language. There are trade associations. There are government agencies. There's a great internship with the Office of the Attorney General, with the District of Columbia, with the Federal Judicial Center. I could just go on and on. So if you're looking to, you want some kind of taste of legal experience, lots of possibilities.
Thank you so much. I think it's important for students to know. They come into my office all the time and I say, you really could do anything, really. And I think that sometimes is overwhelming. So I appreciate some of those examples of where you see our students go. Speaking of COVID, I was wondering if you could maybe give us a little update, or maybe, I wouldn't say prophesy, but kind of give us some insight into how you see Washington Seminar going, and maybe some things that you've needed to do to adjust the program to meet certain requirements.
Sure. Well, last March, we closed down the Barlow Center, and all the students went home and continued the program remotely. And then we just didn't do anything over the spring, summer. For this fall, this current semester, we have a small program. There's about 10 students, but it's wholly remote. And the Barlow Center is still closed this semester. So I think we had about 10 students on the program. Our Friday classes and briefings are still held. Actually, COVID has helped to augment that, because we can get people that we sometimes couldn't have gotten before. So we had a briefing from China policy expert who briefed them from Beijing, and then others that we've had on the program. And then the internships, I think about 7 of the internships are remote, wholly remote. Students are working from home, wherever that is. And then 3 of them are actually on site in Washington, and students just found housing out there on their own. As far as what it's going to be next semester, We're hoping, and we've got a proposal in to the university administration to be able to open the Barlow Center in January. I'm waiting to get an answer back from them. And of course, it's still very, very uncertain whether or not that's going to happen. If we open in January, we will have some mitigation in place and a much, much smaller group. Hopefully the program will run the way it is. But what I'm seeing right now is a lot of the internship providers are only doing remote internships. Not all of them. Capitol Hill's interesting. Congress, for example, Senator Lee's office is on site. Students are going into his office. A few other congressional offices are either not taking interns or they're doing them remotely. But assuming we get permission to open the Barlow Center, then students will either do their internship remotely or on site. Depending on what happens with COVID next summer, we may be able to have what internship providers are saying is they're waiting until March or April to decide whether or not they're going to be remote or offer an internship at all. But a lot of in industry, a lot of professions are learning how to do remote internships, remote experience working from home. So those are out there and possibilities for students. And then as far as next fall is concerned, we just don't know. My advice to students is unless you're just right up against it and you have to graduate and you really want an experience, I would push your application or your time period for Washington Seminar back as far as possible right now. I would not look at anything before fall semester and maybe even winter of 2022, because there needs to be a period where things begin to normalize and settle out. And besides right now, the only students we're considering for Washington Seminar, even for the summer at this point, are those who have already secured their own internship. We're not taking any more applications for provisional admission. So it's hard to say. We'll see what the administration thinks, and I completely trust their judgment. We felt like circumstances were such that we could move forward if the administration feels good about the program opening. And I'm hoping, or the Barlow Center opening. If it does not open, we'll just do it like we did this semester. It'll be remote, and students can do their internship remote, or they can go to Washington and just find housing on their own. We have a few resources and contacts, but that does, in most cases, increase the cost of doing the experience.
Thank you so much. We talked a little bit about the remote internship versus an on-site internship, and I was wondering if you could talk about some of the differences that you're noticing in the way that this delivery method is happening.
Yeah, what I like to tell students is it's like the difference between having a Zoom class and having an in-person class. So remote internships, like a Zoom class, they're adequate. You can get an experience from them that can help build your skill set and network and other things, but it's not optimal. It's not the same as actually being on site. There's a lot of things that happen when you're just in an office and casual conversation that takes place that can really be valuable, I think, for students. And it's the same way with, with a class where you can just linger and talk to a professor or talk to other students. But so remote internships can be okay. And there are some things that you want to look for if you're doing a remote internship. Be sure that the internship provider is going to give you weekly opportunities to interact with other members of the staff and not just get an assignment and interact with the supervisor once a week. There should be more to it than that. Even if it's virtual, even if it's by Zoom, you really want to look for those opportunities to get to know people. Some internship providers that are doing these remotely, they built in like weekly coffee with the boss, they'll call it. So you have a chance to meet with the head of the organization on Zoom and just ask questions and get to know her or him a little bit better. So that's the main thing. The other is that you do have good close supervision. So hopefully on a daily basis, you're checking in with a supervisor and getting assignments, and somebody's keeping track of what you're doing. But that interaction on a regular basis is critical. And then there's some other things that just to help you stay sane, so you're not just looking at a computer all day, that you should be doing. But so if you don't have another option, remote is okay, and you can come away with a good experience, is what I'm seeing with the students I'm working with right now. However, if you can go in person, it's much better. I think that's really what you want to have if you can.
Is there anything else that you feel that our students need to know as they prepare for Washington seminar or internships in general that we haven't talked about already?
Sure. Yeah, a couple of things. The first thing is be sure you do your homework. So if you want to participate on Washington seminar, then be sure you really understand the program and you've looked closely at possible internships by going to our database. And also look to see, make sure you're clear on what we're looking for. So for example, to apply to our program, I need every student is required to write a statement of intent. There are certain prompts that are on the application that tell them. I look at that statement very, very closely, not only for the quality of the student's writing, but also that they're addressing the prompts, as I've indicated, and that they are, what they want to do is going to be a good fit with what our program offers. So that statement is critical. So doing your homework and then being careful about how you prepare your application. You don't need to get paralyzed by it. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it does need to address the criteria and signal that you know what you're getting into and you know what the program's about. The same thing is if you're applying for an internship. You need to make sure that you have really done your homework and that you follow the directions that the internship provider has given you. There are all the other things like, a good resume and those sorts of things, and career services is a great source of advice and counsel and direction for preparing those sorts of things. But I one time was talking with the internship coordinator for the FBI in our area. And I believe she told me that when they get internship applications for their summer program, they almost immediately eliminate a third of the applications. And she said the reason is these are the students who didn't follow directions. So something was incomplete, they didn't address something. And she said, we immediately rule them out. And I don't care what their GPA is or how many other experiences they've had. If they can't follow the instructions to apply for the position, then we're not interested, because we got lots of students who will do that. And I think that, again, that goes to whatever organization you're wanting to intern with. So be sure you do your homework and then understand the mission and goals of the organization, along with the position, what the duties of the internship will be, as much as you can. Be sure you've looked at their website and a little bit of research about them, so that when you do your resume, and you should always include a cover letter unless they tell you not to, you're talking to them about why you're a good fit with that organization. And rather than you've just, had all this experience or other kinds of things, but you've got to explain to them what will make you a valuable addition to their organization, and why what your interests are, both education-wise, can be met by working for them. You can't do any of that if you haven't done your homework in advance.
I'm so glad that you said that. I actually teach a career development class, and I use rubrics all the time, and notice that a lot of students don't get the best grades because the directions are not followed as closely. So I'm grateful that you said that as a way to enhance the application for this program. I wanted to put in a plug also. We talked earlier a little bit about experiential learning and being able to articulate your experience afterward in order to place well in different careers. That is also something the advising office does. And so if that's something you want to coach through, all of us here that are on the panel right now, Allison, Arnie, Scott, and myself can help you to articulate those experiences. I had a question come in about career placement as a result of this experience. And I don't know that we necessarily have any numbers or data, but what can you add to that, Scott? What you've been able to calculate from using this experience in career placement opportunities?
Yeah, I don't have any hard data either, but I can tell you this: every semester, we have some students who get employment directly after the internship as a result of that experience. Now, it isn't always, in fact, it isn't with the organization that they did the internship. But students who use that opportunity in that office and being in Washington to network and to get inside of the system end up finding that the networking opportunities are really rich there and do lead to job opportunities. So one of our little secrets about this program is Washington is full of BYU alumni who've done this program, and they're some of our best sources for help in getting future internships. So it is certainly, it doesn't happen with everybody, and I would never want to say that that's going to be the case, but I always have some who, as a result of their internship, they get something next that comes up for that. There are many students who they may come back and need to do another semester or two before they graduate, but they've learned how to network if they were paying attention to the things we taught them, and they've then been able to use that experience to keep those contacts alive and then go back out to Washington to work. And then often it's very helpful with getting with graduate school and so on, whether it's law school or MBA or whatever, it can be really helpful.
I had a follow-up question about networking. This person is curious to know whether or not networking, is it 80% networking that will get you your job versus the qualifications that you bring? Tell us a little bit about Washington, D.C., because I felt like I had to move there in order to get my job when I started working over there. So tell us a little bit about that community.
Yeah, I think the data that I've seen, I don't know how good this is, that 80% of the people who secure an internship, it's because of who they know, their networking opportunities that they've had. But anecdotally, that is my experience, is that you really, yes, you can get a job for an organization in Washington coming, from Kansas or Utah or wherever, but you really have to be there. I'll give you an example. I've talked about Congress several times, but if you work in the Congress as an intern, there's an internal hiring pool within the Congress. And as positions open up with other offices, see those first are going to be other members of staff in the Congress. And so it is not unusual at all for our students who are working there on Capitol Hill to be able to find out about a job opening full-time with the staff of another senator or representative. So networking is extremely important, and learning how to do it well. Yeah, it's not just about having lots of contacts. It's also about how you make those contacts and how you connect with them and with those people and then maintain them. But yeah, Lindsay, I think you're right. Students tell me they want to work in Washington, and my advice always is, well, go
there. Yeah, that's what I had to do.
You've got to be in person, and it doesn't work to just say, well, I'll hop on a plane and fly out there and interview with somebody. the fact that you're there. Also, the other area that's a rich source of help is the wards, both YSA and the regular residential wards. Every ward is filled with people who have government jobs, especially the YSA wards. They have their internal kind of networking possibilities, and you learn about job possibilities in all kinds of areas just with the people that you're sitting there in Relief Society or priesthood meeting with.
That I'm so glad you mentioned that. And if any of you have questions about how to get in on those communities, come and talk with me, because I just recently came from that area. So, well, we have some time left that we wanted to turn over to some students for questions. And so Arnie is our facilitator today. Arnie Allred, our career director. Can you, Arnie, do you have some questions from students?
Well, unfortunately, I haven't had anybody that's put any questions up, and I think maybe part of that reason is because, Scott, you've been so informative. I mean, it's been, I mean, it seems like the questions that come to my mind, you just kind of answered. And so, you know, for those of you that are out there, you know, please, you know, if you have a question, you know, get it up and let us discuss it. We have some time. This has been really good, Scott.
Yeah, let me make a little diversion, okay, if I could for just a minute, and make a plug for the state legislature internship, okay?
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
Because this is an ideal opportunity for a history major. Now, the Utah legislature only meets in general session once a year, and it starts in January and ends in March. And but one of the great things about that opportunity is you get inside the legislative process in a way you don't even get in Washington, for example, because you see the process from beginning to end. And the members of the Utah legislature don't have personal staff, and so they depend on their intern. And so it's a paid experience where most internships in Washington are not paid. Or other places, you're typically going to be a volunteer in those organizations. With the legislature, it's a paid experience. And we've just finished our recruiting for this upcoming session for winter semester. We might end up picking up another couple of positions or something, I don't know. But the state legislature is an excellent, excellent opportunity for students, and often gets overlooked. And again, they're looking for good generalists. You don't have to be a policy wonk. You don't have to even like Utah all that much to have a good experience there. So if you would like a really good quality internship that's going to give you something that you can talk about and point to as having developed some additional skills, and networking opportunities are tremendous with that experience as well. So if it doesn't work this year, and again, I recommend maybe waiting, I would certainly look for next year. So it's every winter semester we have the program. And we usually can take about, they usually give us about 26, 27 positions.
That's amazing. I'm so glad that you mentioned that as an opportunity.
Yeah, and that really is a very rich opportunity as well. And the fact that it's right here and you know, nearly local is really a boon.
And you don't
Shay,
have to, you don't have to move to Salt Lake. Students just commute. They take front runner and tracks, some will carpool. So it really is a good experience.
Yeah. Shay Worthland has a question. Shay, would you like to ask your question?
Sure. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm an older student returning. Just have about a semester left. I'm actually not taking classes this semester, but anyway, I just wondering if what do organizations think when they get an application from someone I'm 34 years old. So what does that? How does that factor in, I guess?
Not at all in my experience. First of all, Shay, legally they can't consider that you're not in your 20s if they're looking to bring you on for anything.
Right.
So, but even practically, I can speak to Washington. We've had everywhere from the typical, college age student. We had one woman who participated on the program who was 50 something, I think. And my only concern for her was just that she was happy spending, a lot of her time with students who are the age of her grandchildren. But she had a great experience. And I want to say, I'm not sure if she was a history major. She might have been. But I think she had a very good experience. So I would not let your age keep you from participating in the Washington seminar or the state legislature. They really, that's just not an issue. What counts more are your hard skills like writing and so on, and also soft skills, maturity, and typically older students, non-traditional students, we might say, or re-entry, you typically have good interpersonal skills and are more mature and responsible. So yeah, I think you could spin that to your advantage. Remember, you're looking at this as an internship, as a part of your education, not as a job you're applying to where you want to build a career in a company. And that's a different focus. So if what you're really saying is, look, I would love to have a semester where I get to work full or part-time with your organization, you've got good reasons for it, age is not going to be an issue. And frankly, they can't ask. So I just wouldn't worry about it. Go forward.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I had a question while we're waiting for maybe others to think of some. My question is, we talked a lot about breadth and depth of understanding before you go into this program or even look for an internship. What I'm hearing from you is that you don't necessarily need to know exactly what you want to do and yet still participate in this opportunity. Can you maybe speak to that?
Lindsay, what do you mean by know what you want to do? Know what you want to do in terms of internship or
Sure.
career for
Right.
life?
We have we have for life, right? A lot of people think I need to know exactly what I need to do and what I need to be right now in order to understand the kind of internship that will help me get there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That is not necessary. And in fact, if you're the typical undergraduate student, you're probably going to shift your career direction several times. It's rare that somebody as an undergraduate stays in the career that they think they're going to be in. And so that's why I say focus on whatever the next step is that you want to do. And so again, if your next step is you'd like to get employment in some area, or you want to go and you want to be competitive for graduate school, then that's great. And you can sort through that. That's not as hard to think about the next year or so as it is to think about the next 10 years. The best thing you can do if you're thinking long-term is to kind of create a toolbox that you can use, that you can take around to various kinds of things you're interested in and passionate about. And in that toolbox, you want to have experiences that will add to your qualifications. And also, you may want to look at some courses that will be helpful to you. So for example, if you're a history major and you're not math phobic, you may want to add a statistics course. And I've been amazed how often organizations will look at that course rather than the student's major, whatever the major was, the fact that they've got that particular skill set. Sometimes language can be helpful. Return missionaries tend to sometimes overemphasize that as being a calling card, but it can be useful. So if you served a mission or you have a language background, build on that in some way. So if, let's say you speak Mandarin, well, speaking Mandarin is not going to be enough. You need to have some coursework that helps you to understand, say, US-China policy or trade issues or those sorts of things. So add to that skill set. So I don't worry about 10 years down the road. As you move on in life, you're going to discover other possibilities. But if you take advantage right now of building those tools, adding those into that toolbox, then other opportunities will make them manifest to yourself. You'll see them as you go along.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I do have a lot of students that worry about 10 years from now. And even though you said, just think of the next step for them is career. It's like, well, no, there are some other things in between that we also need to consider. So,
yeah.
And I think that's such great advice. That is such great advice, Scott. And you know, I have the same situation with students that visit me is, you know, they need to take initial steps to get to where they want to go. And a lot of that is discovery process. So thank you.
Yeah, and you know, BYU has some great things you can do. The BYU Connect program, for history majors to connect with an alumnus who can be a kind of mentor or can give you some advice. That is an excellent opportunity, and I would take advantage of that and do it multiple times if you can. I think a handshake is another way that you can begin to see what kinds of things are out there and available to you. So there are some great resources here on campus that students often overlook. They don't find out about it until their last semester before they graduate.
well, Arnie, if there aren't any other questions today, I'm sorry, what were you saying?
No, I said, and that's sad. And I think it's more prevalent than students think that they wait too long to start this process, and the opportunity goes away if you don't take advantage of it when it's there. So Scott, thank you. I'll turn the time back over to Lindsay. Lindsay, we have no more questions as far as the Q&A. So
thank you so much, Scott. We really appreciate your time and being here. And I'm so excited about Washington Seminar and hoping that we can start going back there as soon as COVID lightens up. We'll see what happens. But thank you again so much for being here. And we hope that all of you have a wonderful holiday season. Thank you so much for joining us today.
You bet. Thank you. Thanks for giving me the opportunity. Bye-bye.